Welcome to it, sports fans. Thursday from the Bleachers with me, MKT. What an awesome day it's been. 22nd of November. Where has the year gone? We're going to get straight into it. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Roman Abramovich, his effect, of course, on not only English football but world football. And then we're going to get into the Arsene Wenger years. Legend or laughable? I've heard both sides from both Arsenal fans and opposing fans, so we'll get into that a little bit. And we'll finish off with the enigma that is Springbok Rugby. Will they constantly be a yo-yo team, or on the horizon is there stability? I'll finish off with that as my final musing. Welcome to it from Bleachers with me, MKT, episode 11. We are underway. We're going to talk first and foremost about the man who changed the face of football. Not just in England, but for Chelsea, for UEFA, for FIFA, for agents, for players, for everybody involved. Roman Abramovich is simply the greatest thing that ever happened to world football. I'm not saying you have to like him. I'm not saying you have to like how he got his money. Because I think if we dig deep enough into everybody who's got lots more money than other normal people, not sure if we'll love it. But I don't want to hear Pele, Ronaldo, Maradona. Roman Abramovich is simply the greatest thing that has ever happened to world football. The second coming of the Roman Empire is by far the greatest version of the Roman Empire, and it simply changed football forevermore. You know, the greatest part of dating a person you find attractive, particularly if you find them attractive, the greatest part of dating that person isn't the actual dating of the person. It's the not knowing before, when you approach that person, not knowing the result of that. Will she say yes for a coffee? Am I wearing the right shirt? Is my body language right? Am I physically attractive to her? You know, the insecurity within all of us, that's the best part. Overcoming that and actually sort of fighting with the result of, I don't know how this is going to go. You know, enjoyment is directly correlated to not being sure, to how unsure you are before the event. Right? So enjoyment is directly correlated to what do I expect to happen here to sort of stop me from getting the result that I want. So if I'm not sure of how this whole thing's going to go down, and then it does go the way I want it to go, generally that's more enjoyable. Especially the less sure you are. The more you expect things to go against you, and then you get the result that you want, whatever, in business, personal life, sport, the enjoyment's going to be higher. It's almost certified. And you know what? Like, I've been very fortunate in my life. I've met a lot of uber rich people, part of the world's 1%, like stinking rich, like a helicopter's their normal car kind of rich. And I've met two sides of that as well. So I've met uber rich, so I'm a billionaire, but I wasn't a billionaire one generation ago. Or I've met the guy who's a billionaire, but his dad was like worth 100 billion or a couple of 100 billion. And I'm more impressed by the guy who's poor and became the billionaire. Some people will say inheritance is fine, and that's cool. I'm not judging. I'm just telling you what impresses me more is the guy who's overcome. I'm not questioning any inheritance, kids. That's your own thing. But it's not interesting to me if you've inherited 800 million and now you're a billionaire. That's not interesting to me. But to the guy who's, you know, he had nothing and he made it and he moved, he made some moves, he was ambitious, and now he's a billionaire, that to me is exciting. I've got questions for that person. You know, Roman Abramovich at a very young age was orphaned, and he lived in the north of Russia during a difficult time in history. The USSR at the time, or the Soviet Union if you like, obviously ostracized from the world for whatever reasons. But an orphan from Russia in 2003 came to England. But just before he came and changed world football forever, in 0203, Ken Bates declared publicly that Chelsea were broke, flat broke, and they were about to go into administration. If they didn't get into the top four, Chelsea would have to sell all of their bigger assets. At the time, Wise, Lampard, people like that, Desai, of course. All of these assets would have to be sold. What happened next was that Chelsea, in the 0203 season, managed to get that fourth spot. Ken Bates made the greatest move, we didn't know it at the time, but the greatest move for world football in its history. He offloaded Chelsea Football Club for what now looks like a snip at £140 million to a mysterious Russian figure, and football was changed forevermore. You know, the reason nobody watches women's tennis, all right, is not because women's tennis is worse than men's tennis. That's not why people don't watch. That's not it at all. It's because Serena Williams is so dominant. Seriously, Serena's dominant. She's playing on her own, and it's been like that for almost like 20 years now. Serena's turning 37, but she's been dominating for like 20 years. Right? Serena Williams is out on her own. It's boring. That's why we don't watch women's tennis. It's not because men's tennis is better. They're different sports. And women's tennis, if it was competitive, would be awesome. But Serena's killing it. Now, conversely, the reason people watch men's tennis is that not one, not two, but the three greatest players are all playing at the same time against each other in their prime. That's why men's tennis has tripled the viewing figures, tripled the earnings. Because Roger, Rafa, Novak, same time, prime time. Listen to me, Formula One, right, is still recovering. I don't think Schumacher's jumped in a Formula One car, right, since 2004. And Formula One is still recovering from his dominance of 4 in a row back then. His last title was in 2004. Formula One in 2018 is still recovering from that dominance 14 years ago. Nobody likes a walkover, not in professional competition, not as what we call a fanatic. Fan stands for fanatic. I don't want to be reasonable, I want to be fanatical. So let's have a look. What happened in the English Premier League when this mysterious Russian man came over? Let me put it to you this way. Of the 11 first EPL seasons, right, Man United won 72%. That's 8 of 11. Subsequently, right up until the 17-18 season, so the last 15 seasons, Man United have won 33% of the titles. 5 of 15. So 8 of the first 11, 5 of the next 15. So 33% after Roman Abramovich arrived. Now that's not this isn't a Chelsea Man United topic. It's just to let you know that something changed. And I'll tell you what changed. Roman Abramovich was in town with the money bags. And how do I know that Roman Abramovich's sort of £2 billion that he's invested in Chelsea has changed the face of football forevermore? It's not a guess. It's not because, I'll be honest, I support Chelsea. I'm not guessing. I've looked at the numbers. And the one thing I know about people with lots and lots and lots and lots of money is they don't just spend their money frivolously, particularly in advertising or where their money can't be amplified and help their company to grow. They will be frugal. They'll look for value. Right? They'll look for value. Warren Buffett has a great saying, price is what you pay, value is what you get. That's what people with lots of money are always doing. So how do I know that Roman Abramovich's £2 billion investment in Chelsea has changed football forevermore? Let me simplify it for you. I don't want to burden you with numbers. In 2001 to 2004, because that's how the terrestrial rights get negotiated, the British rights, 01 to 04, 2001 to 2004, went for £1.2 million. Remember, Abramovich intersects all of this in 2003. So at the end of this negotiation, they would negotiate the very next block. 2001, 2004, £1.2 billion. Let me put it to you this way. The rights in 2013 to 2016 were £5.2 billion. Roman arrived in 2003. By the time in 2013 that Richard Scudamore negotiated his last contract, for just the British terrestrial rights, it had jumped from 1.2 to 5.2 billion pounds. That's not a mistake. That wasn't going to stay the same had Man United continued to dominate. Roman Abramovich changed the face of football forevermore. I'll tell you why he changed it as well. There's a beauty to me in football when the correct people get rewarded. This is another thing I think people don't realize. Forget Chelsea's trophies and the 5 Premier League titles, blah, blah, blah. I could go on about that. But finally, at long last, the players earned more. That's who should get paid, because the players should earn the most, because billionaires don't need more money. Players should earn the most. And what Abramovich did when he showed people that a billionaire can come in, not just at United, but now he was here to play, and he wasn't playing by the sort of conservative rules. He was here to splash the cash, and my goodness, did he change the face of football. But now the players started earning more. Because now everybody had to start overpaying to match Chelsea's spending. And you know what happens when it's Lord of the Flies. Everybody wants, there's only so much world-class talent. People started overpaying for players, and players started earning more. No Roman Abramovich, players are still earning 2003 salaries. Roman also opened the British mindset to what world class was. For so long with Sir Alex Ferguson, remember Fergie only ever won one Champions League title. 2 at the end, but in the beginning until Roman came, he'd only ever won 1. And British football was in a lull about what world class was. Then people like Ricardo Carvalho arrived. Then Didier Drogba arrived. And then people realized maybe this Shearer guy, oh my goodness, he can't do what that guy can do. And it lifted the expectation in British football. And I think it revealed to British football just how far they were behind. Because when Mourinho came, he was another level. We see it now with Guardiola. The English coaches were exposed, and British football still hasn't caught up, but at least they've turned the light on to say we are behind. Eddie Howe is the next hope. But Pep's in town already. Unai Emery is in town. He's showing he's well above Sam Allardyce, Harry Redknapp, the types that floated around. Because remember, of the English managers, Roy Hodgson is still around. He's like 809. So what Roman's money did is it showed the English coaches and the English players what world-class truly was. Robben, Carvalho, Paulo Ferreira, Arsene, Makelele. He brought all of these world-class figures in which hadn't been brought in before. The one I can remember that Man United tried and it bombed was Juan Sebastian Veron. Roman's money changed everything for the standard of world class in England. Let me put it this way. just so people can understand what Roman Abramovich's actions did for everybody and for English football in particular. In 2007, Manchester City had Stuart Pearce as their manager. 9 short years later, they had a guy, you might know him, he's from Catalonia. He may very well be the best coach we have ever seen. Time will tell. Pep Guardiola. It's not possible without money. And if the Sheikh hadn't had Roman to open the door to say, billionaires come and play here, if he hadn't upped the competition, the Premier League wouldn't have the value that it had for Guardiola to be Manchester City's manager. So having a look at the listings, right? Last year for the turnover. Tottenham, Leicester and West Ham in 2017 turned over more cash, and this is no lie, you can go and look it up, than Roma, AC Milan, and they tied Inter Milan. That's Roma, AC Milan, and they tied with Inter Milan. Inter Milan were just below West Ham. So those big three, Roma, AC Milan, Inter Milan, made less money than Tottenham, Leicester, and West Ham. Listen to me. Spurs haven't won a trophy in about 500 years, and they are the 10th most valuable football club in the world. Tottenham Hotspur are the 10th most valuable football club in the world. They haven't won a trophy, I think, since Aristotle opened the first university in the West. That's in ancient Greece, by the way. That's a while ago. They still called it Athenia back then. Parity is not the enemy of competition. Parity is not the enemy of competition. I think more people need to hear this, particularly those that are discussing the Super League. Just ask the WTA. Serena Williams is awesome. She's awesome, but she's not awesome on her own. Nobody wants to watch. I don't want to watch. I don't watch women's tennis anymore. Not because it's not a great product. I'll just wait for Serena and the highlights to hear how much she beat whoever by. Parity is not the enemy of competition, and nobody gets that like the NFL. Advertisers only spend money where there's value. What Roman Abramovich did was strong-armed Manchester United, right? And he sort of injected and sort of expedited Chelsea's move up the ladder. And what that meant was Sir Alex could no longer have it his own way. In the first 11 seasons of the Premier League, 8 belonged to United. In the 16 since then, 5 titles have gone to United. And the Premier League rights are going through the roof. The next Premier League rights are being negotiated, and the very minimum they'll be sold for is 6 billion. Before Roman Abramovich got there, they were 1.2 billion. And it's not that long ago. The next rights will go at 6 billion pounds. People might say, oh, but he hasn't helped the small clubs. It's absolute nonsense, because Southampton, I can confirm, have just sold Virgil van Dijk. All right? Not Sergio Ramos, not Paolo Maldini, not Franco Baresi. Virgil van Dijk for a world record fee for a defender at 75 million pounds. Southampton Football Club. Leicester in 2015 should have been relegated. Don't know how they survived that. Pearson went, and they survived with Ranieri. Leicester should have been relegated in 2015. They just sold Riyad Mahrez for 60 million pounds to Manchester City. If that's not enough, listen, West Brom just got relegated, right, last season. West Brom made more money, including a parachute deal. The parachute payment is the money that you get when you get relegated. You get it the next season. They made more money, secured guaranteed money. They were the 20th best club in England. They made more money than Barcelona, who won La Liga. West Brom got relegated from the English Premier League. Barcelona won La Liga, the Spanish Premier League, and West Brom made more money. Just want to let that sink in. 20th best team in England made more money, guaranteed money, from last season than La Liga's champions, the Catalonian giants, Barcelona. Look here, the Roman Empire has provided for everybody. Everybody should be grateful. His time might be coming to an end, but his legacy will live forever. He was the first, whether you like it or not, to blow the doors right off it. From Stamford Bridge to Wembley, there is only one Roman Abramovich. If this is the end, I say to you, Roman, mazel tov, my brother, because you, single-handedly, created the greatest show on earth. Let's move across London to the Gunners, the Gooners. And I've been thinking hard about this one for a while, because I've got good friends who are Arsenal fans. And I don't like to hurt their feelings. But it's tough enough being an Arsenal fan. I think it's horrible being an Arsenal fan, but okay. It's been a while. 2004, 2005. When is the last title? My God, 14 years ago. It's about half of what Liverpool have had. So Arsene Wenger, a legend or laughable? It's a question I've been asking myself for a long, long time. You know, here's the thing. Not every relationship is meant to last forever, right? Like, not every relationship should last forever. Like the Hollywood, meet in high school, sweetheart, the parents love each other, the dog, the picket fence, blah, blah, blah. I could go on about it. It's boring. The worst relationships that I've been in, friendship, but let's go with romantic, is where one side feels like it's being taken advantage of, right? And you can always tell who that was, whether they're right or wrong, at the end. Generally, the vitriol for, oh my gosh, I'm just glad to be out from under that person. You can always tell. So whoever the vitriol receives the most vitriol at the end, generally, is the one who was actually taking advantage. You can always tell. And you know, part of greatness is something I've been thinking about is you need to be self-aware. In business and sport, you need to be self-aware. You've got to take your ego out of it, because ego is about you, especially in team stuff like business and in sport. But mostly in sport, you have to be self-aware, because self-aware people erode their ego and they make the best decision for everybody around. And what that allows you to do is that when your powers are on the decline or the wane, you know to get out. Not to save face, but to save it maybe the institution or your teammates, or in this case, fans. When your powers are not what they used to be, so they are waning or they are in decline, if you're self-aware, self-awareness is a part of true greatness, you leave. Then you don't have to exit stage left. They clap you out of the front gates. You know, in life, good is everywhere. It's like something I try and stress with people around me, and I only stress it because I've seen it in my life. A lot of people are good. Honestly, I've met like 2 or 3 great people in my life. I've met 2 or 3 great. And I've traveled, so I've met a lot of good, but I've met 2 or 3 in my entire life, and I'm 33 years old, or 32, I'm getting on now. But I've met 2 or 3 great, like genuine 5-star human beings, well-rounded, self-aware, driven, ambitious, fit, kind, nice, like genuinely happy for other people who do well. I've met 2 or 3 great. Good is everywhere. Great is not. Great is an overused word. Why do Arsenal fans keep telling me Arsene Wenger is great? just because he was around for 22 years. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy this because you do something for a long time with the nostalgia must make you great. No. Is it the Invincible season? Listen, I was around. That was my peak years, 18, 19 at that time. I was around to watch those teams, and I love Thierry Henry. He's the greatest player to ever play in the Premier League, and it's not even close. But a lot of those Arsenal performances were playing for the draw and playing for the record. Trust me, I watched it. Don't listen to anybody. For about 15 of the games, they weren't the swashbuckling team that everybody tells you they were. Defensive, holding for the shape, playing Grimandi along with Gilberto. Trust me, I watched it. Right? You don't need to tell me about it. I watched it. I lived that season. Invincible's great? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you're not going to be great just because of your length of service. That doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't hold in this conversation. This is what Arsenal fans need to start realizing and stop giving me Wenger is great. Because if length of service is your argument, right? For 22 years, Wenger served. 4 trophies, 4 league titles, 7 FA Cups. What does that make Alex Ferguson? If Wenger's a legend, right? What about Fergie at 27 years, 13 titles, 5 FA Cups, 2 Champions League titles? What must I do with that? 4 League Cups, throw that in there. What must I do with the 17 trophyless seasons that Wenger had? What do I do about that? Do I just ignore that? Alex Ferguson almost had as many titles as Wenger went trophyless. That many years. He went 17 years trophyless. Fergie's got 13 Premier League titles. What do I do about that? Do we just, sweep that under the carpet? No. Jose Mourinho's got 3 titles, right? An FA Cup and 4 League Cup titles in 7 years. So in a third of the time that Arsene Wenger was there, he's 1 Premier League title short. He's got an FA Cup, but he's got 4 league titles, 4 League Cup titles. So if I extrapolate that, times it by 3, so it's like 9 titles. So that's double what Wenger's got. Maybe gets 2 or 3 more FA Cups. But Mourinho's got Champions League titles and titles elsewhere. What do I do about that? You can't call him great. If you're great, you must distance yourself beyond reasonable doubt. It's not a question. Greatness is not a question. Like, nobody has to think about Muhammad Ali, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicholson, Serena Williams. Like, I don't have to think about that. I don't have to argue for them. If I have to argue for you, you're not great. If I have to argue for you, you're not. I don't have to argue about Thierry Henry. I don't have to argue about Tony Adams. Like, I know Tony Adams is Arsenal's greatest player and probably England's greatest centre-back of, maybe ever. Like, I don't have to argue about that. I know Tony Adams is a colossal of a man. I know Ashley Cole was the greatest left-back the Premier League's ever seen. I know that. I don't have to argue it. I don't have to put in provisos. If Wenger is a legend, then what is Fergie? That's how you have to do it, guys. And I'm sorry. Arsene Wenger is why can't he just be good? Be happy with that. Like, good is, or I'd even say very good. Why can't he just be very good? Why does he need to be a legend? Because you can't do that. You can't say time and amount of service. That doesn't make you a legend. Legendary is you've separated yourself from those that are very good. And it is an insult to anybody else who has served in the Premier League and served the same amount of time. I don't hear anybody saying Harry Redknapp's a legend, if it's just about time of service. But you cannot compare Arsene Wenger to Sir Alex Ferguson. You can barely compare him to Mourinho's record. You definitely cannot compare him to Pep's record, even by Premier League standards already. Invincible team was great. There's no doubt about that. But they take an absolute pasting against probably Mourinho's 2004-2005 side, but definitely from this side that Man City have going now. So please, Arsenal fans, greatness, it's rare. Arsene Wenger great, stop it. Stop it. Very good, I'll give you. Great, you're having a laugh. Talking about having a laugh, Springbok Rugby's this weekend. And they're a laugh, aren't they? Springbok Rugby makes me furious, passionate, angry, like I don't know. And people say, why am I so negative about Springbok Rugby? You know, it's because I care so much. Nobody gets angry or passionate if they don't care about something. Like, I genuinely care and love. First of all, I love South Africa because it's an awesome place. But I love our sports teams. Like, I love sport. That's all I love. I don't love anything else. I love my mom and I love sport. Those are the two things I love. I love sport. I just love rugby. So, things that we love, we should be most critical about. I genuinely believe that. If you love somebody and you love something, you tell that person the truth, or you always try and find the truth. Right? Like, if you love somebody, you find the truth. You know, America's greatest investor ever, a dude called Warren Buffett. Yeah, he's like, he's got this quirky kind of image that he's portrayed to the society. But I've read lots of books, and I've been fortunate enough to meet two people that actually worked with him at Berkshire Hathaway back in the day. I've had the pleasure of being introduced to them. And they say, behind closed doors, the man was ruthless. But anyway, the thing about Berkshire Hathaway, right, is they invest in what you call the long term. They don't do these big plays trying to hit the ball out the park. In baseball, they call it getting singles. The ground ball. Get people on base, and then you get your hitter to try and hit it out the park. Springbok Rugby is more like Bitcoin. Like, you want to hit everything out the park. Every single batter comes out swinging. Why? Why is it like this still? And rugby has been professional since 1994. Why is it still like this? It makes no sense to me. We run Springbok Rugby like it is what we call in South Africa a spaza shop. If you're not from South Africa, a spaza shop is an informal trading store. Something that you're like a corner shop. Like a little corner shop in the UK. Like your uncle or aunt or granny owns it, and they just kind of serve the local population, and sometimes they'll be out of milk, and, you know, a corner shop. That is how Springbok Rugby is run. And if you want to know what I mean, just try and visit the Springbok website. It's despicable. It is absolutely despicable how poor that website is. It wouldn't be fit for a 5-year-old's play date. It is despicable. But it lets you know, it sets the tone for what Springbok Rugby is and has been since forever. Love Springbok Rugby, but it is still an amateur show. Remember, the backbone of Springbok Rugby was club rugby back in the day, but we have not evolved to that. But I want to stay away from what happened in the past. That's a subject for another podcast. And next week, I will do something on Springbok Rugby, and we'll delve a little bit deeper. But you know, the administration of Springbok Rugby is absolutely embarrassing. And it'll start with, you know, in business and in sport, I always say it in football, is that the football club, right, or any sport, but the football club will always take on the personality of the leader. It just always happens. That's how it goes. If you allow the talent to stay with the coach long enough, the coach will always impress his personality. So if they're a quirky person, you'll find the team will have lots of idiosyncratic ways of playing in rugby or football. Right? And my question is, if you're trying to create a culture, I hear Springbok culture all the time, but there's nothing there. What's happened is this, is the coaches always come from different unions which have refused to centralize. And that is the fault of SA Rugby, because nobody wants to lose out on the money pie. But anyway, that's a different subject. The point is, nobody has taken the difficult decision, because all of the unions are fighting it. But somebody just needs to, at SA Rugby, say you're in or you're out. And those that are out are out. And then we centralize the contracts. Everybody plays for Springbok Rugby. Because what you do then is you say the Springboks are the most important rugby team in South Africa. Not the Stormers, not the Lions, not the Bulls, not the Sharks. Nobody cares about that. That should be an afterthought. You are here to serve the Springbok badge. The Springbok badge is not here to serve Western Province, not here to serve the Golden Lions, not here to serve the Blue Bulls, the Sharks. It's the other way around. Why aren't coaches employed within the system to be here for 12, 15 years? And people say, oh, that's impossible. It's not. We're looking at the results with the All Blacks right now. Steve Hansen has been the assistant coach at the All Blacks. Listen to this. Since 2004. That means he's been in the system, in the All Blacks system, for 14 years. As an assistant. That's culture. Because when the next guy comes, he has no choice. He was surrounded by Wayne Smith, who is the absolute blood. And I think that's why the All Blacks are crumbling as well. Wayne Smith has left, and it happened last time. When he left, some of the ethos of the All Blacks has left with Wayne Smith. My point is, Steve Hansen has been with the All Blacks for 14 years. He was the assistant to Sir Graham Henry for 2 World Cups. You don't think that he's carrying everything that the All Blacks are about right from the administrative front? He has a feel for what's happening on the ground. After 14 years of being the assistant for the All Blacks, you know everything that's happening from under 12, 15s, 18s, 21s, and then the extravaganza that is the All Black jersey. Ian Foster's been there since 2012. I've heard talk that he's the next guy. But even if he's not, Scott Robertson, of course, he's doing incredible things with the Crusaders. Even when Scott Robertson comes in, now Ian Foster's been there since 2012. He's got the feeling for transitioning Scott Robertson into the system. Because I've always read it, Dan Carter articulates it beautifully. He thought the Crusaders had a culture until the expectation of being an All Black was placed onto him. And that's why he says he struggled 03, 04. That's why Mertens had to stay on a little bit longer, because the All Blacks is another level. There's a culture in there imbued. The pressure to do the right thing, to be an All Black, is like nothing else. But after 2 or 3 seasons, then you're in the flow. After 14 seasons, we can see what Steve Hansen's done. He's given us the greatest rugby team in the history of mankind. Why haven't the Springboks done that? Let me put it to you this way. The All Blacks have had 6 coaches since rugby went professional in 94. 6 head coaches. 6. The Springboks have had 11. You can't do anything successful without a system, guys. I don't care how good you are. And this is why, if the Springboks don't have world-class players, like the 2017, 1995, the only reason we won really was it was in South Africa, and we almost couldn't lose with the sort of feeling in the country. But 2007, we had some legendary players. So like probably the 2 best locks who have ever played rugby. Juan Smith for me is top 2, top 3 flanks to ever play rugby. Fruity de Pree might have the best pass rugby has ever seen. Ever. Like ever. That's what we had in that team. Skalkberger Jr., who might be one of the greatest flanks that Springbok Rugby's ever seen. So these guys were all in one team. But if Springbok Rugby doesn't have legendary players, we're terrible. We're losing 50s against Alistair Coetzee. Alistair Coetzee wasn't even that bad. It's been more embarrassing. This yo-yo effect is because we don't have a system in place to say, let's ingratiate guys and let's have some continuity. There's no system. We run it like a corner shop. Like a corner shop won't have an accounting system. It won't have payroll. These are things you need in a company, otherwise things don't flow. Those are fundamental. Springbok Rugby needs to wake up. And finally, part of the bigger problem is that South African school rugby is probably more professional than Springbok Rugby in terms of administration and everything that goes with it. Here's the problem there. Every school in every different province of the big, I'd say 6 or 7, where most Springbok Rugby players will come from, at least junior Springbok Rugby players anyway, all play different types of rugby. So once again, the culture of serving the school and the province starts with the boys at 14 years old. And the Springboks become an afterthought. So my thoughts on this is the Springboks will continue to be a yo-yo team until we centralize. And we don't just centralize at provincial level. It's too late. Boys have learned bad habits by then. We centralize from school level. Like the German football teams have done over the last 12 years, like they did in Belgium. Everybody must be reading off the same hymn sheet. We play the same rugby. We have the same framework. In fact, there should be, by the time you're 16, 17, there should be a body type that I should be able to see. Like in American football. A lock should look a certain way, an 8 should look a certain way, a blindside flank should look a certain way. Because there are metrics, we know how to measure them now to get the greatest output. But there is no Bok way. There is an All Black way. It is clear. They know it from 12, 13, 14 years old. It is centralized. It is clear. There is leadership. There is direction. I will get into Springbok Rugby a little bit deeper in the future. But for now, I see no direction. I see no leadership. And the time to lead is when it's toughest. We're going through a difficult time now as a Springbok team post Alex Coetzee, which was a tragic time for everybody. We haven't been good since Peter de Villiers, who was a wonderful coach, ousted for whatever reasons. But we don't have a system that will allow us to see through the most difficult times. And until we get professional within the ranks of SA Rugby and we get rid of amateurs like Yuri Roo and Mark Alexander, who are running it like a corner shop as their own sort of pot of gold, then we will never get anywhere and we'll continue to be a yo-yo team. But luckily we have a professional school system. So we'll always produce high quality rugby players in South Africa. But tragically, we will not be consistent. Would love to hear what people think about that. Love the Springboks. Looking forward to their game against Wales this weekend. Let's see how that pans out as the Northern Hemisphere end of year tour comes to an end. That's it from the Bleachers this weekend. For today, I say this weekend. Tomorrow, Friday 5, the 5 greatest wingers in British football history, in Premier League history. Looking forward to putting that list together. For today, though, that is it with me from the Bleachers, with me, MKT. It's been awesome. Man, that was a cool show. Remember to subscribe, head to our Podbean page, look at the description. It's got all of our pages that we've got. On the Podbean page, you can actually download the audio and listen at your own leisure. For now, see you tomorrow. Looking forward to the 23rd, Friday. Anybody celebrating Thanksgiving in America, enjoy. To all of you and yours, looking forward to tomorrow's Friday 5.